It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We will be here with you for the next couple of hours discussing sports topics of local, regional, and national fascination. So stick around. Should be fun. Happy Hump Day, Wade.
Happy Hump Day to you. Good to see everybody. Good to be with everybody. And this is the highlight of the day for a variety of reasons. It always is, but man, it's been yucky out there. And so this is kind of hopefully what will maybe combat some of that yuckiness from the what Mother Nature has dealt us thus far today.
Mother Nature has dealt some yuckiness. The Cincinnati Reds have dealt some yuckiness earlier. It's been a yucky day, but hopefully this next couple of hours will brighten things up a little bit in the neighborhood. So looking forward to that. In the second hour of the show, we will be visiting with the Titan insider Terry McCormick, getting his reaction to day one of preseason camp that took place today. We will also be visiting in our next segment with Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR and a little preps, because they've got some stuff going on up there in Northeast Tennessee that, speaking of fascinating, it deals with a pretty historical event that they've had up there for almost 40 years that may or may not be going by the wayside. So looking forward to getting Heather's insight on that. Again, we will be talking little Braves, just because, as Wade likes to say, we're kind of contractually obligated to do so, as well as the Astros, who have suddenly kind of backslid on us a little bit, coming out of a pretty good weekend. Some other Major League Baseball tidbits that we'll be getting to. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday, where Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Literally, we've got some international wackiness. We've been a little disappointed here over the past few weeks. There's not been a whole lot of Florida stuff. And so we are really kind of keeping our eyes peeled for Wild and Wacky out of Florida. And, I'm not sure if we'll have anything today or not, but Florida's kind of letting us down here of late. It's a little disappointing.
Florida's letting us down, but I mean, they've also set the bar. They've given us so much,
That's a good point. They have provided much fodder for us over the course of this segment. So
by their standards, yes, they've been awful quiet. I don't know what's going on down there in the Sunshine State.
Too quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the calm before the storm. We'll see. Maybe they're waiting for football season.
That could be, everybody starts getting a little ornery, a little antsy right before the start of the season. Yeah, maybe they're just biding their time as we get into the last couple of weeks before we have football returning.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's kind of what we got in front of us here over the next couple of hours. So we can go ahead. We probably should go ahead, Wade, and provide everyone with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, folks. Time to kick off the rundown. We go to last night's scoreboard. As we referenced a moment ago, it was the Athletics. After shutting out Houston earlier in the week, they got an 8-2 win last night versus the Astros. So it has been a rough go for Houston versus the lowly Athletics, who suddenly don't look so lowly in the AL West. Reds and Braves, after Mother Nature intervened last night, they returned and they have resumed. And currently in the ninth, game number one of a doubleheader today, the Reds lead the Braves down in Atlanta 9-4. Other baseball action, we go to the minor league circuit where the Sounds fell last night. Charlotte defeating them 7-2. So it's kind of a rough go for everybody in the sport of baseball right now, Mo.
It's been a tough stretch. Absolutely. Today's schedule, first pitch at 2:37 as Houston continues its series at Oakland against the Athletics. Game 2 of this Reds-Braves doubleheader, necessitated by last night's rainout, will be played at 5:05. Houston and Oakland, you can see on MLB Network. Reds and Braves, you can see on Valley Sports South. And at 6:35 out at First Horizon Park, the Charlotte Knights and the Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series here in town. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, as well as their hand-cut meats. And everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Those daily deli lunch options, by the way, are available until 6 o'clock. So it's lunch, but it could be an early dinner as well. So check that out. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you our top story. And it appears that for the 2025-26 school year, scholarship limits across the NCAA will be expanded, I guess, as part of the new revenue sharing model that is expected to take hold for that school year. Football, I guess everybody will be able to present or award as many scholarships as their roster allows. So football is currently restricted to 85 scholarships at the Division I level, but they have a 105 player roster, which is where you get double numbers, but that's another story for another day. But now they will be able to give 105 scholarships. Baseball, currently restricted to 11.7 scholarships, will now be able to give 34, which I think this is probably the biggest or the most affected sport by this. Softball and volleyball are each capped at 12 scholarships currently. They will go to 25 for softball and 18 for volleyball, according to this article on yahoosports.com written by Ross Dellinger. It's going to result in 60 additional scholarships, I guess, per athletic program across those 5 sports: football, baseball, softball, volleyball, and I'm not sure what the 5th sport is. Hang on. Football, baseball, softball, volleyball. I'm missing something. I guess basketball.
Presumably.
Well, I would presume. Or someone miscounted, one or the other. But again, I don't know that every team in every sport on every campus will award that many scholarships, but that's what will be allowed for the 25-26 series. And this is pretty life-changing, I would think.
Yeah, this could be a big shift for, obviously all the sports are going to be impacted, but you said it best. And when this news, kind of was initially discussed a couple weeks and months ago, we wondered about baseball in particular, because I don't know how in the heck these baseball coaches do it. I guess we could ask Coach Fanning earlier in the week. I mean, you have a deep roster, but you're only allowed 11.7 scholarships. So you kind of really turn into like a general manager almost, is the way I'm kind of looking at it. And so the fact that this number is going to increase, this is the one sport for sure that feels like, man, we could really be in store for a lot better, to me at least, quality of play, because a kid that's maybe on the fence and says, well, I couldn't get a full ride to insert SEC school here. And so I opted to go to, Tulane or, an NAIA school, wherever they wanted to go, maximize their financial benefit. Now, all of a sudden, if I'm reading this right, it kind of seems like this might be the case. Now that player that was on the fringe is now going to be a part of an SEC program. So the talent level in theory should rise in the games. I would presume will be a lot better, which are already fantastic.
Yeah, I've done articles in the past on college baseball, and basically the generally accepted thought is that most everybody is paying some amount to play college baseball. Rarely is anybody on a full 100% full ride in college baseball. And so, with that 11.7 scholarships that they have, they really have to get creative with how they split those up among, again, a game roster of 34 players and probably more than that actually in the program. So it gets to be challenging. And like you said, you do kind of have to have a general manager, kind of a capologist, as you would probably say in the NFL, maybe, just to make sure that you are maximizing that 11.7 or the dollar value of that 11.7. So, but as this article says, many schools are unlikely to use a full 34 scholarships for baseball, choosing instead to offer grants to only a portion of its roster and leave walk-on opportunities. But, you would like to think that somebody like, say a Chase Burns or a Christian Moore or somebody like that, you would have the flexibility to say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and give you a full. Now, the X factor there is when you bring in the NIL component to this. How many of these guys do you actually have to give full scholarships when they're making money through NIL?
Yeah, that certainly will be a fascinating breakdown for a lot of your upper tier programs to see kind of how they get creative with their dollar amounts, because you're right, NIL could potentially, hey, we don't have to give this ace pitcher quite as much because he's already giving or getting as much, if not more, in NIL. And so that certainly would be fascinating. The other interesting piece to this on my MO is, where do we go with these real non, revenue driving sports? Baseball has kind of crept up into that discussion almost, especially depending on which program you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to swimming and diving? Are they still kind of grandfathered in almost, or is this an issue where those sports, wrestling or track and field or whatever, do those sports kind of get cut a little bit more, or cut, heaven forbid, entirely, because they now have to account for more money and more revenue sharing or more scholarship sharing across the bigger sports?
It's going to be a heck of a question.
Not a good time to be in administration in college athletics, trying to figure all these pieces of the puzzle out, because it seems kind of nice and it seems kind of cut and dry, but there's a lot that goes into this, I imagine.
Oh, without question. And, and then you add the Title IX component into it as well. I mean, if you're giving more scholarships to men's sports, then you got to be sure that you are increasing your opportunities on the women's sports side of things as well. And not that that's a bad thing. That's just the reality of it.
That's the reality of it. Yeah. And that's going to be a key factor in this. And then the other factor is, what happens to those schools that money is not quite as plentiful and abundant, and you were really selling your program on getting 2 or 3 key pieces every year from folks that ended up not going to an SEC school because the money wasn't there? Now, all of a sudden, if they commit to the SEC caliber type schools, what happens to those programs?
Kind of the opposite of trickle down, right?
Right. Yeah. Second time we've referenced, Austin Peay, but Austin Peay has done a great job of getting those guys that are SEC caliber talent and turning them and really building their program around them. What happens to those level of schools is what I'm also wondering reading this.
I'm not even sure it's a ripple effect, but there will be some unintended consequences as a result of this. So it may not be a plus all the way across the board. So,
in a perfect world, especially as we talk about more, with revenue sharing, especially in regards to obviously those monster TV deals, you would hope that NIL component that you mentioned a moment ago, and you would hope maybe some revenue sharing could kind of mitigate some of the costs that would take for some of those other, and maybe it kind of keeps everybody afloat. But we know one thing is for sure, is that the NCAA doesn't like to turn loose of a lot of money. And short of legal action, which we're now starting to see kind of come around, short of legal action, they really don't like to turn loose some money. So maybe this thing will have a positive outcome across the board, but it certainly feels like those upper level schools will benefit, but at what cost to the other ones is still to be determined, and the other sports in this equation.
The other sports and the other schools, absolutely. So yeah, this will certainly bear watching once it becomes, an actuality, and we certainly will do so. One person who doesn't have to worry about scholarship money at this point is Kavaris Tears, the former University of Tennessee outfielder, Columbia Academy graduate, Lewisburg native, signed about 45 minutes or so ago with the San Diego Padres. So Kavaris Tears is officially a professional baseball player. Congratulations to him. Terms have not been available on the interwebs to this point, but his slot value signing bonus was a tick over $500,000. So don't call Kavaris right now. He's kind of got some things to do, but yeah, congrats to him.
But it's good to see him financially rewarded, and he can officially now rent out the entire Highway 50 drive-in movie theater in Lewisburg for Friday night. So he can start pulling some strings in Marshall County now.
I'm not sure how old Kendrick is. I'm not sure if he's of driving age yet, but I imagine Kendrick's wheels will get an upgrade if that's the case. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he's just one of those kids, one of those guys. One of those young men that you really like to see good things happen for. And clearly that has been the case. We will see where he winds up to begin his professional career. I don't know if he's going to be at the Arizona Complex team for the summer, or if they will put him with one of their other minor league teams to get things started. Again, not been a whole lot out there other than a couple of things on social media, but he has signed. So that's obviously a big move for the Columbia Academy graduate. Braves lost 9-4. Game 2 again is at 5:05. You can see it on Bally. I guess I'll torture myself probably, but let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we hope to have Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City talking a little NASCAR and whatever else we come up with. So stay tuned after this break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are joined now by our NASCAR analyst, WCYB TV's Heather Williams, out of Johnson City. Heather, good afternoon. Heather?
Hello?
Hey, there we go.
You got me?
Yeah, the mic works better when it's turned on.
I didn't touch it. Somebody else turned it off.
I hate when that happens. Hey, thanks for getting that figured out. Thanks for joining us. So NASCAR is officially in its Olympic break, which on its face sounds kind of wild. It's like, what, they're racing in the Olympics now? What's up? But I guess this is more of a television motivated or fan motivated break to allow, you know, maybe you're not going to get the ratings that you would have wanted in the midst of the Olympics, so it's best to just stand down. And what exactly is the motivation behind an Olympic break for stock car racing?
Well, this part of the year, NASCAR is on NBC, and the channels and all the associated channels with NBC are kind of tied up with Olympic coverage. So there's literally
kind of busy
no place
right
on
now.
television to put the race. So that's why they're taking the 2-week break.
Okay. All right. That makes a little more sense, or a lot more sense. I saw an article, or I saw specifically a tweet regarding the Olympic break, and I guess different teams are doing different things over the course of the break. Some aren't really doing anything. Some are kind of stepping away for a little bit. Some are stepping away for longer than others. It's not a NASCAR mandated break necessarily, I don't guess. I mean, how would you best describe this other than that they're not racing this weekend?
Yeah, they're not racing, and people can use their time how they want to. I think most people will take some kind of break because there are no off, weeks in NASCAR. I mean, there's no bye week, or there's no, in baseball, it's not really weeks, but you have like a day or two during the week where they're off. They're not really off with the travel and with appearances and sponsor obligations. It pretty much just go from the time the green flag drops in Daytona until when the checker flag drops in Phoenix. So everybody's going to take at least a little bit of time away. Some of the teams will use, since it's a longer break, since it's 2 weeks, where in the past there might be a week off for NASCAR, some here or there. They will probably use some of this time to do some testing, some R&D. And when I say testing, I mean like in the simulators. They can't go to tracks and test. Some of the drivers will run in other series, maybe to work on skills that they need at certain types of tracks, or just to have some fun and kind of race for fun and keep their driving skills sharp in the 2-week break. But it kind of depends on the driver, on the team, how they want to use this time. I think Ryan Blaney's getting married over the break. So it just kind of, so somebody's getting married. I think it's Blaney. But it just depends on the driver, how they're using the time.
Okay. I guess Kyle Larson goes into the break pretty pleased with himself after winning at the Brickyard 400 this weekend in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been the man, right? All year, he's been top 1 or 2 in points all season long, despite the fact, once we kind of got settled into the season. Despite the fact he missed a race, like he spotted everybody a race, he's still the top guy. He leads the series in wins now with 4. So he's feeling pretty good about himself. But as we've learned many times in NASCAR, the best regular season does not necessarily mean you're the champion. It's all about getting hot at the right time, as it is really in any sport. Last year, the best 2 guys in the regular season were William Byron and Martin Truex Jr. They were tied for the regular season championship when the season ended, and neither one of them won the championship. William Byron finished 3rd in the standings. Ryan Blaney was your champion. Martin Truex Jr. didn't even make the Final 4. So he's feeling good now, but you got to sustain that all the way through the checkered flag in Phoenix.
Heather, I want to ask, diving in the weeds a little more. I love the soap opera of NASCAR just as much as I love the racing, sometimes even more so. But headline from Yahoo says, and I watched the last lap or 2 and the overtime situation with Kyle Larson. The headline, though, says, was the Brickyard 400 gifted to Kyle Larson? I'm curious your thoughts on that, because it was an interesting finish, if nothing else, with a potential caution getting thrown maybe.
Well, I'll be completely fair and transparent with you. I was yelling some things at the television when that caution finally came out that are not suited or rated for a television or streaming broadcast. I was kind of unhappy with the way they timed it, because it seemed pretty clear from the television vantage point that Ryan Preece, who spun out, was stopped on the backstretch, was not going to be able to get rolling. All the tires were flat. And he was in the racing groove, so it's not like they could keep letting them run. And they waited until they threw the white flag before they threw the checkered flag. But the yellow flag. But in NASCAR's defense, they're not watching the television broadcast; they're watching the track, and they may not have been able to tell that Ryan Preece wasn't going to be able to be rolling. I think if they had to do it over, they probably would have thrown the flag sooner, but they're also reacting to a million overtimes at Nashville, and we don't want to keep having overtime and guys running out of gas. They wanted to try to let this race end organically under green, but once Ryan Preece just couldn't get rolling, they didn't have a choice. It's curious. It's definitely controversial. It certainly gave the talk radio shows lots to talk about on the Sirius XM NASCAR radio going into this off week, because it does seem counterintuitive to what happened in Nashville. But again, I think that's probably why they did it. They don't want to see that many overtime restarts in a race, because it seriously alters how the race was going to finish. So, in my opinion, I think they waited too late to throw the caution flag, but I can certainly understand why they made that decision.
Yeah, because it seemed like it was gripping television as a completely neutral observer, because on one hand, you're watching everybody going around the track, but you're also watching the camera that was fixated to see if he could get rolling. And I don't know who makes that final call, but I would not have wanted to have been that person, because it seemed like you said, kind of a split decision, and potentially without all of the information, because so much is moving at one time. And I guess you just maybe try and get it as best as you can in terms of getting it right or fair. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's the race director's decision. And I'm not sure exactly how many race directors are, at least a few. So, it's just like an umpire, right? People complain about NASCAR being consistent, but it's just like an umpire in baseball. All of their strike zones are different, right? Every race director calls NASCAR balls and strikes differently and sees things differently. So it isn't going to be 100% consistent, just like a strike in the Braves game is not the same strike in the Royals game, because you've got 2 different guys behind the plate. So I certainly understand fans' frustrations. I certainly was one of those frustrated fans, but I also have empathy and understanding from where NASCAR is coming from. They really want to give the fans a green flag finish unhindered by things like running out of gas and multiple overtimes.
And then final thing on last week, I guess, on my end was kind of, if you would explain that to me a little bit, because I'm watching Brad Keselowski, and everybody knows that he's about to run out of gas. And then you have Blaney and Larson kind of jockeying for position. And it just, to the novice, it seemed like there was some consternation about the order or the lineup. And I'm just curious if you could kind of maybe put that in layman's terms, because some people were mad for something that to me seemed like it was pretty simple. One guy goes out, you just move up the next couple spots, but obviously nothing's ever that simple, it seems like.
Well, it is that simple. When Keselowski pulls off the track, that inside row all gets to move up one spot, right? You've already chosen what row you want to be.
Okay.
Now, it's unfortunate for Blaney, because if Blaney knows that Brad's going to run out of gas, he wants to be on the inside, but you've already made your bed. Now you got to lay in it. Everybody gets to move up. But Ryan Blaney is now the control car, because he is technically now in first place. So he gets to say when we go on the restart. He gets to control the restart. Once the green flag goes in the air, he is the guy that has to accelerate first. He has to reach the start-finish line first, or the start's not legal. Everybody is waiting on him. He's a little bit caught off guard because Keselowski literally waited to the last second to pull off the track. So he doesn't get as good a jump on the field that he would normally get, because he doesn't know until literally seconds before that he's now the control car. But Larson can see Keselowski pulling out, and he gets a pretty good start. So they come much more even to the start-finish line. Some people believe that Larson jumped. That it looks really close to me. I can't say whether he jumped the start or not. It was close enough that NASCAR decided not to call it, but because it was that close, people felt like, because once they got past the start-finish line, Larson had all the momentum and went into the lead. So that's where people got angry. But technically, Blaney was the control car. He controlled the start, even though he's now on the outside lane, because you could choose. And he could have chosen, even if he was the first place car, he could have chosen the outside lane. So, and as the second place car, he could have chosen the inside lane. So, but he's now the first place car regardless, and he's the control car. And that's where the confusion is.
So he's looking at Keselowski saying, it'd have been nice to know that before I chose what I chose, it sounds like.
Yes, he would have liked to have. I mean, I think that a little bit of better communication maybe from his team to say, like, look, the 6 is not going to make it. He might run out of gas on the restart. He might pull off at any moment, just so he's a little bit more aware of what's going to happen. But I mean, it's too close for me to be able to tell. I've watched it several times, whether or not I think Larson jumped the restart, which is where people are angry. They think he jumped the restart because Blaney's supposed to be control car. But in any event, NASCAR doesn't think he jumped the restart. He let him go, and you just got to race on from then. It goes back to those balls and strikes thing.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little NASCAR. So, Heather, what will you be watching Saturday in lieu of NASCAR?
Oh, probably the Olympics.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, probably the Olympics.
That makes sense.
Maybe a little bit Royals baseball if I can find it somewhere.
So with this weekend's outcomes, did Ross Chastain and Bubba Wallace swap positions in terms of the playoffs? Am I remembering from last week to this week right?
No, Bubba's still out. He's 7 points out now. He's definitely closed the gap and definitely now can point his way in. He certainly has more momentum than Chastain. He got another top 10 finish at Indianapolis, so he's kind of trending up. Chastain's not necessarily trending down, but he's definitely trending sideways a little bit. So, and there's some tracks coming up that are particularly good for Bubba, and some good tracks for Ross too, but some really good tracks for Bubba. So, and what also happened is Chris Buescher had a terrible day. So Chris Buescher has also fallen back down to the pack. So there's really 3 guys now that are racing for that final spot in the playoffs, which makes it even more interesting.
12 guys have gotten in via victories. Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, and Chastain are the 4 guys currently in the playoffs that have not won a race yet. And then looks like Bubba, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, and Todd Gilliland are your first 4 out if the playoffs began today, which they don't. So you feel like Bubba has the best chance of, between now and the final playoff field being set, getting in?
I mean, who knows, right? Because anything could happen. He could blow an engine on the first lap at Daytona, which is probably his best chance to win a race. Definitely his best track before the playoffs start. So you don't know. There's also could be more first-time winners. I still believe that Todd Gilliland could be the absolute sleeper and totally disrupt this and jump up and win a race and get in to the playoffs because he's running up front. He's just having a little bit of bad luck as he did this week. He had a really good chance to maybe win this week and had some kind of bad luck. So, I mean, of the guys that are competing for those final spots, he's definitely running the best now, but he had a cold streak not too long ago that dropped him out of the playoffs to begin with. So, I mean, we still got several weeks before we decide this for sure. And one thing you know about NASCAR is you can't predict it. Just when you think you've got it figured out, something crazy happens.
We come back out of the break with an August 9th Cup race at Richmond. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Good race for the Toyota teams, which would include Bubba.
Okay. All right. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week, I'm sure. But Heather, we bring you on for NASCAR coverage, but it's certainly been an interesting few days up in Northeast Tennessee as the historic Arby's Classic Boys High School Basketball Tournament is in flux, in limbo. How would you describe it?
Going through a bad divorce would probably be the way that I would describe it.
Bad divorce. Yeah. And mom and dad are not.
Oh, mom and dad are not speaking.
Yeah, they are not communicating very well at all. It kind of goes back to the language that you were talking about, screaming at your TV over the weekend. I mean, it's not good.
Yeah. So on Monday night, we got basically an email leaked to us from Tennessee High to the franchisees that own most of the Arby's across the country, including the ones here in the Tri-Cities, where Tennessee High basically rejected Arby's proposal to continue sponsoring the tournament. So then we reached out to both of them, to this organization that owns Arby's and to Tennessee High. The Arby's people confirmed that is the case. The Tennessee High people basically just said, we're going to have an announcement. Oh, they said, we're glad you reached out. We're going to have an announcement about this tomorrow. Conveniently, after we questioned them. And that they're going to continue to have their tournament. But so that's what we reported on Monday. On Tuesday, they had their press conference and then we also talked to the people from Arby's again. So basically, from what I understand from both parties, the agreement was up. The sponsorship agreement was up. They opened it up for a bid. Arby's made a bid. Tennessee High kicked it back and said, we want to change the name. We want it to be the Arby's Classic at Tennessee High School, I believe was the name that they wanted to call it. And Arby's was like, no, that's too much. And everybody knows this is the Arby's Classic and we're paying money for it. And we want it to be the Arby's Classic. And then Tennessee High said, okay, thanks, but no thanks. And so they decided not to go with Arby's. And so the tournament that has existed at Tennessee High for 40 years is now going to be called the Classic at Tennessee High. And the Arby's Classic is now out for bid. So the Arby's people want to continue to have their Arby's Classic in the Tri-Cities. And they are currently in negotiations with another school to host that tournament.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Well, I think, and I've been accused of being on one side or the other. I actually think it's kind of a poor decision for both sides. Mm-hmm. The name Arby's Classic has become a very recognizable name as far as holiday tournaments go in the nation. There are teams from all over the world that have come to this tournament. There's a team that comes every year from the Bahamas every year to play in this tournament. There's been teams from France here. There's been teams from Spain here. So there's
been teams from Thompson Station, Tennessee there. Independence, your Class 4A reigning state champion, was in that tournament this past year. So
right. And names like Tim Hardaway Jr. played in this tournament. Ray Allen played in this tournament. Football players like Mitch Travinsky and Jason Witten played in this tournament. I mean, it draws a lot of talent, but it's known as the Arby's Classic. So it's going to cause some confusion for people when they're looking at this tournament from the name recognition. So for Tennessee High's side of that, I personally think it's a bad move because they're losing the name recognition of their tournament. On the Arby side, and they really didn't have as much say in it because they wanted to stay on as sponsors, they're losing the connections, right? Because the tournament director and all the teams that have already signed their contracts, they're staying with the tournament now called the Classic at Tennessee High. So I think it's a lose-lose for both people. Plus, it creates more competition in the area as far as people's time, their dollars, where they want to go to see teams play, where local teams want to go to play. So I wish there could have been a better solution to this because I don't get why the quabbling over the name is what ended this relationship. It feels like there's probably something deeper that neither side wants to talk about.
Yeah, after 39 years, it's not like all of a sudden Tennessee High just decides they want their name mentioned in the title. But
Right.
It's interesting. Richard Enzer, director of the Classic, they're going to come regardless of what it's called. So good luck to whoever tries to compete against us because they're going to have a hard time. That's spoken
certainly
like
an opinion.
That's spoken like a guy who has his 2024 field already set.
Oh, they absolutely have the field set for this year. They absolutely have the field set here. But here's the thing. There are thousands of college or high school basketball teams in the country and lots of really good, talented high school basketball teams that go play in tournaments all over the country. When I lived in Springfield, Missouri, there was one sponsored by Bass Pro Shops. It's a huge tournament that brought in top teams from all over the country. So there are teams out there. They don't have to even play in the same sandbox as the Arby's Classic. So I respect Richard, and that's certainly an opinion, but I don't think that they're going to, while they're going to continue to play on the same weekend, when they go to their team pool, I don't think they're going to be playing in the same sandbox. Yeah. Just my opinion. And also, from what I understand, the Arby's people are trying to get one of the other established holiday tournaments in the area and just jump on as sponsors. And there are several. There is one at Virginia High School right across the state line, Bristol, Virginia High School, that brings in a lot of the top prep schools in the area. Oak Hill Academy plays in it every year. It's generally in January, but that could be an easy fix, an easy slide to the Christmas time and bring in all these top prep schools to come play. And that's still really good basketball, just a completely different pool of teams.
Interesting. Like I said, Independence played in that event this past year. We have had other Middle Tennessee schools go up that way and play.
Giles County, long time ago.
Yeah. So it is a recognizable name, and it is recognized as the Arby's Classic. And Tennessee High is, secondary at best. Like you said, though, it feels odd that after all this time, their name being mentioned in the title of the event seems like an odd reason for this, divorce to be taking place.
Yeah, it just seems like there's more to it. And, I don't want people to get too weighed down in semantics. I've spent a lot of my time with people saying, you said the Arby's Classic was leaving. It's not leaving. Well, it is really. I mean, the name is going away. The tournament is still staying, but the Arby's Classic is going somewhere else, whether it's Virginia High or West Ridge or Dobbins Bennett or Science Hill or any of the numerous names, Wise High School in Virginia, any of the names that have been kicked around here as possible locations for the Arby's Classic. The Arby's Classic, as we know it, is not going to be at Tennessee High anymore. There will be a tournament that will have the same teams and the same structure, but it's not going to be the Arby's Classic anymore.
It would feel like, Heather, what is this? West Ridge's second year?
It's their fourth year, I believe.
Are they that old? I didn't realize. Yeah. But it would seem like this would be a great opportunity for them specifically to kind of put themselves on the map as a newer school.
Yeah, and beautiful facility. I think the thing that they have working against them is they don't have an existing tournament of any kind, so they don't have the connections to bring in teams that The other schools that I mentioned that have been rumored all have tournaments. Greenville High School is another one. They have a huge women's tournament, pretty similar to the Arby's, where they bring in teams from all over the country, top teams. It's a little bit more regionalized. It's usually a lot of North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Virginia teams. But, those are all existing connections where they can probably build a team quickly enough to get that tournament underway this year.
Okay. We'll certainly bear watching.
It's interesting, and it's been interesting. I guess this always happens when you break a story, but the number of people that are mad at me over it. Don't kill the messenger. I just reported.
I'm just reporting.
The messenger always gets killed, though, and you've been in this long enough to know that. So
I know. It's just I don't do sports full time anymore. I do a lot of special projects and stuff, so I don't do this a lot, and so you forget sometimes how people can be.
Well, you've been reminded. So but I'm sure you'll be staying on top of this, and we'll be waiting to see where the Arby's Classic winds up and how the Classic at Tennessee High goes. So Heather Williams of WCYB TV in Johnson City, bringing us NASCAR and more here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. Heather, we appreciate it.
Sounds
Enjoy
good, Mo, and we're going to get to talk some high school football soon too.
We are indeed looking forward to that. Have you had a chance to sit down with Hal Mummy yet?
So our sports anchor Cole Johnson went out to their practice on Monday and talked to Hal. I have not looked at this interview. I don't know what they discussed, but yeah, we did as a station sit down. I have not personally talked to him yet.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
But I can listen to the interview and give you a full report on what's going on with Hal Mummy next week.
That'll work.
Now we're talking.
We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Heather.
Hey, when we continue on Main Street Sports Today, after this break from the Lee Company Studios, we'll be talking a little baseball, so stay with us.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 24th, 2002. Damian Moss threw 7 scoreless innings of one-hit ball. Albie Lopez allowed no hits in 2 innings of relief, and Atlanta got home runs from Henry Blanco, Andrew Jones, and Wes Helms in a 10-0 win at Florida. The Braves staked Moss to a 6-0 lead before he even took the mound, as Blanco's 3-run homer followed an RBI base hit by Mark DeRosa and Helms' 2-run single off Marlins starter Michael Tejera. Helms went 4 for 5 with Jones and Gary Sheffield each adding a pair of hits in the victory. That was this day in Braves history. And after Atlanta got rained out for the second time in 5 days last night, this day in Braves history stands in stark contrast to the performance that we just saw this afternoon, because Atlanta had 4 hits in a 9-4 victory, but they were 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They stranded 11 runners and they lost by 5. And 10 hits is a good day. 4 runs is not. So I guess it's more about timely offense than it is about offense at this point. But the Braves are not being able to get hits when they need them. And after dropping 2 of 3 to St. Louis coming out of the break, they just fell to 1-3 with the loss. But they get a chance at redemption here in about 3 hours, as the first pitch of game 2 today is at 5:05. Nick Martinez getting the ball for the Reds, 3-5 with a 3.88 ERA. Chris Sale, 13-3, 2.70, going to the mound for the Braves. And anytime you can send him out, you feel good about your chances, but you got to score.
Yeah, those numbers, hits to runs, did not. That's not a winning recipe, no matter what level of baseball you're playing.
No, 4 runs on 10 hits. Cincinnati had 9 runs on 12 hits. So, it's just a tough stretch that the Braves are in right now, and I don't know how. It kind of feels like when I was covering Vanderbilt back in another life, you kind of run out of ways to say this team isn't very good. So, and right now, and obviously the Braves fighting against a lot. The latest, Austin Riley is on paternity leave for, the next couple of days. Congratulations to him and his wife, Anna, on the arrival of Bo Williams Riley at like 12:34 a.m. Eastern time yesterday, this morning, I guess. So, yeah. Interesting. I'm sorry. It was 12:34 Tuesday morning, because he was pulled out of Monday's game to go. So
That's right.
yeah. So, and the Braves are 1-4 out of the break because they lost that game to Cincinnati on Monday night. They were off yesterday. Yeah. 1-4 since coming back from the All-Star break are the Braves. They start to run together after a while. And again, Wade, after all of the good work that the Astros had done heading into the break and coming out of the break up at Seattle, they drop another one to the Athletics, 8-2, as Oakland hit 5 home runs last night.
Yeah, not good for Houston. Maybe not blow up the team, but man, you lose 2 to Oakland and you start wondering, you start questioning your sanity a little bit. So they need to turn that around, and their game today is already tied 1-1. And at this point, Hunter Brown pitching for Houston, you maybe would like your chances, but Just when you think you've got this game figured out, it throws something new at you, right?
I think the question might be, why is Oakland as bad as they are? I mean, again, they got 5 home runs last night. Lawrence Butler, Brett Rooker, Shea Langoliers, Seth Brown, and Zach Geloff each homered last night. 4 of those guys are in double digits. Lawrence Butler fell a single short of the cycle. And one of the guys that did not homer is former Vandy boy J.J. Bleday, who was 1 for 4 in the win for the A's. So, I mean, there's a little bit of talent on that team. And I guess it would be easy if you've just won 2 of 3 at Seattle to maybe come in and maybe overlook them a little bit if you're the Astros. I'm not sure if that was the case, but Oakland may be better than their record too. So
could be better than their record. Houston was trotting out a relatively brand new pitcher. Jake Bloss was making his debut. So it's kind of, to me, the way I look at it is, you got to get them out, and they're professionals for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not just going to roll over on you, at least at this point in the season. And so he got a little first loss as a big leaguer, kind of a rude welcome from the Oakland contingent.
Absolutely. Yesterday was Paul Skeens Day.
Speaking of losses.
Exactly. Yeah, he
bleeds like we bleed after all.
Finally, goes 8 1/3 innings, his longest major league appearance. Gave up 2 runs, and that was all it took to beat him, as St. Louis won 2-1 over the Pirates on Tuesday night. He had been undefeated in 6 decisions, had not gone more than 7 innings over his first 11 big league starts. So, maybe if you can get him deep in the game, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy what he's done to start his career, and that he gave up 2 runs, in his first loss.
Yeah, two runs. Cardinals get to him super late, and we had talked about a couple of weeks ago on this show. He was pitching and had the no-hitter going in the 7th, and they take him out, and he threw 104 pitches, so it wasn't as if they just trotted him out there with 120 to his credit. I mean, they were somewhat mindful of his pitch count, it seemed like, and St. Louis gets to him late. And you mentioned, obviously he's gotten off to that crazy start. He's a massive favorite now to win your Rookie of the Year, short of an injury. He basically has that locked up. But this is the most mind-blowing thing to me, is 2 weeks ago, he was listed at 50-1 to win the Cy Young, and now he's down in the National League to 3.5 to 1. And what's crazy is, like, even though in a loss last night, I mean, it's kind of like the perfect loss in a sense, that you kind of do about all you can, and kind of to the point we made with the Braves a moment ago. It's like, hey guys, we got to get a little run support here. We can't go out and, I might be able to win you a game 1-0, but don't bank on it every night. And last night was definitely the opposite of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a tough loss to take for your first major league loss, I would think, when you hold a team to 2 runs over 8 1/3, and you'd
4
like
hits.
to think on 4 hits. Yeah.
So this will be kind of fun to watch the next time he comes out, right? If he comes out with some extra gas. And speaking of, I think I saw a tweet that his 91st pitch was 91st or 81st pitch was still like 101 miles an hour. I mean, the dude is just pumping out there on the mound.
91st.
Yes. 91st pitch. Wow. And then St. Louis, I mean, same deal with the A's. They're even more so with them. They're a big dog team, and they're trying to keep and kind of find their footing, whether it's in the Central or certainly in the wild card. And so they got to Mr. Skeens last night. Got a couple of Redbird fans that were extra chirpy last night.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed at the number of Redbird fans that there were at Truist Park over the weekend, actually. So they are feeling pretty chirpy, coming out of Atlanta with 2 out of 3, and then getting 2 the prohibitive favorite for NL Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens, last night. So they're on a little bit of a roll. The Angels are not on a roll and did not get good news out of Salt Lake City last night. Mike Trout had to leave his rehab start early with soreness in the left knee that he had to have the meniscus repaired back in early May. So him having to come out of that game earlier than they intended is not a good thing. Struck out in his only at bat, played 2 innings, was expected to play 5, and no word on when he will be getting back out there for the Salt Lake team. So
yeah,
Los Angeles Angels are 43-57, 32-39 since Trout went down in early April. So tough go for Ron Washington and the Angels. That's going to do it for hour number 1 here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will reach into the grab bag, see what we can pull out. Stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company studios after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. Hour number 2 starts right now. And, you know, the Olympics have not even started, but we've already got a scandal, Wade. And it comes from someplace that if you picked a top 3 of countries that might be in the midst of an Olympic scandal, you would not have picked this one. The Canadian women's soccer team has had some folks sent back to Canada as a result of some drone spying. The assistant head coach and an analyst for the team have been kicked off the roster, and head coach Bev Priestman will miss Canada's Thursday Olympic opener against New Zealand after someone was operating a drone over New Zealand's training session on Monday. An investigation by the Canadian Olympic Committee uncovered another drone incident on Friday.
Multiple drones.
Multiple drone surveillance occurrences. Joseph Lombardi, an unaccredited analyst with Canada Soccer, is being removed from the Canadian Olympic team and will be sent home immediately. Jasmine Mander, an assistant coach to whom Mr. Lombardi reports, is being removed from the Canadian Olympic team and will be sent home immediately. FIFA has launched an investigation into the issue. It's that's wild to me. On behalf of our entire team, I first and foremost want to apologize to the players and staff at New Zealand Football and to the players on Team Canada. This does not represent the values that our team stands for, Bev Priestman said. I am ultimately responsible for conducting our program. I've decided to voluntarily withdraw from coaching the match on Thursday. In the spirit of accountability, I do this with the interest of both teams in mind and to assure everyone feels that sportsmanship of this game is upheld. Goodness gracious. Canada, y'all.
Bill Belichick,
again, it was LaDainian Tomlinson who so famously said during that, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? But Canada.
This is Spygate. And the crazy part, Mo, is Canada is, on the women's side at least, one of your favorites to potentially win this thing. So I'm just like, yeah, what are we doing here? And
New Zealand has won just 2 of 13 Olympic matches.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
they're 2-11 in the Olympics, and you're spying on them.
This is that was kind of the warm up because it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. I'll slip this in here for our soccer folks. This is crazy, Mo, because the Olympics rugby got underway today. The USA is playing right now 0-0 versus France in a big men's match. But earlier today, Argentina is back up to their old tricks because in their match versus Morocco, buckle up. It was Morocco 2-1. They add 15 minutes of stoppage time. Argentina scores, so we think, to tie it up. The Moroccan fans, I don't know if they rushed the field, but they certainly protested. The game was suspended for 90 minutes. Game was suspended for 90 minutes. And then after the 90-minute uproar, they come back and they say, oh, yeah, well, Argentina's goal, that didn't count. It was offside. They blow the whistle and they play approximately 2.5 minutes. And then Morocco wins 2-1 to upset Argentina to kick off. So we've got soccer drama. And it's like Copa America 2.0 with Argentina being involved. The soccer drama is already, and like you said, we're really just getting into the start of the Olympics this weekend. This is just in the first few matches here.
Setting the tone.
Man, 90 minutes due to fan protest.
And then wipe the goal off.
Wipe the goal off, and we got Canada cheating. I mean, buckle up, folks. You don't need to go to the movies this summer because the drama is apparently in the Olympic soccer realm because this is
just keep your eye
crazy.
on Paris.
And like I said, Canada is one of the favorites to win the whole thing. So I'm saying it's giving Spygate vibes is what it's feeling to me, man.
Never take anything for granted, apparently, said Canada. No, we're going to
Yeah, exactly. And if you're Canada, this is perfect, right? Because you've got this global reputation of being the ultimate peaceful country. Use that to your advantage a little bit, it sounds like. They'll never suspect us of cheating. We're Canada.
There you go. It was announced earlier today the 2034 Winter Olympics will return to Salt Lake City after the 2028 Summer Games are set for LA. So the U.S. will host the Olympics twice over a 6-year period, basically. The Summer Games in 2028, the Winter Games in 2034. I'm sorry. This is the second time that Salt Lake City will have hosted after hosting the Winter Olympics in 2002. So they were expected to earn this distinction for a pretty good while. And I guess with their previous history having hosted it, it helped. They won going away by an 83-6 vote of the International Olympic Committee. Yeah. So very, very dominant performance by Salt Lake City in earning the 2034 Winter Games. As we mentioned, Team USA's women rallied back from that loss to Team WNBA in the All-Star game in Phoenix on Saturday with an 84-57 win over Germany yesterday in their final exhibition game before beginning play in the Olympics. Diana Taurasi's goal, a three-pointer, less than a minute into the game, gave Team USA the lead that they would never relinquish. So Germany stuck around but never really challenged. So
main thing there is obviously if you come out with no injuries, get a win, a little tune up, maybe even boost a little confidence, and no injuries. Yeah, we'll roll right into Paris feeling pretty good.
Asia Wilson, 19 points, 14 boards. Stewie, 15.6 boards, 5 assists. That's going to be a pretty formidable front court for everybody else to have to deal with once they get to Paris.
Yeah, it would be crazy. It'd be a fascinating experiment to see. Asia Wilson is just so much more dominant than anybody in the rest of the world, I think, these days. At what point, if you start taking players away, at what point would the balance of power maybe shift in favor of another country? And I don't know. I mean, you might have to be talking about taking off the top 6 or 7 best players for the U.S. because nobody's going to have an answer for her, I don't think.
No. It's tough to figure. That's a heck of a question. I like that concept. Okay, if they didn't have her, they'd still be. If they didn't have her and her, they'd still be. But if they didn't have her and her, yeah, I like that. How far down into the roster?
Give me Asia Wilson and give me Asia Wilson and 5 OVC players, and let's see what happens.
Give me Asia Wilson.
Be fun to watch.
Give me Asia Wilson and Savannah Wheeler, and let's see what happens. Yep. I like that thought. That's an interesting exercise there. Wade, I know that you are a Big Ten guy, specifically a Wolverine guy, but why does the Rose Bowl game have to be? Why do they feel the need to elevate themselves above everybody else?
Well, we don't have enough time, really, but I mean, it's to me, and we'll get into this more, but I mean, it's basically the classic things are changing, and we've seen this since the dawn of the sport. I mean, whether in terms of player empowerment, I mean, things when they kind of start changing, certain people's feelings get hurt, and the old guard or the establishment kind of gets really worked up about it. And it seems like the Rose Bowl is from the jump with the college football playoff they value and they want to dictate the terms. They will do anything to make sure they get that iconic sunset photo every single year. And it is a sick photo, but they'll do everything in their power to try and make that happen. And they kind of just feel like they got the clout, and the game has changed.
They will do anything, including removing themselves from the semifinal rotation for the college football playoff, which is what they are currently trying to do. That would allow them to hang on to their New Year's Day date and that 5:00 Eastern kickoff to get that sunset scene that you refer to. So, this is something that has kicked back up, and it's something that they are pursuing right now because we're the only bowl that has the date as part of our brand in the New Year's Six Bowls. It's really imperative for us and important for us, Rose Bowl Management Committee Chair Laura Farber told ESPN. We don't know when there will be a long-form agreement. We're hopeful it will be sooner than later, but that depends on when the CFP has everything ready to go. So they are saying that it's not the sunset photo. It's the relevancy of the Tournament of Roses parade that is paramount to the Rose Bowl officials in maintaining that New Year's Day date for their game. If this were to actually come about, it would mean that the two semifinals would rotate between the Orange, Fiesta, Cotton, Peach, and Sugar, which I'm sure they wouldn't mind that.
You're right.
So, I mean, sometimes, if you love something, let it go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this will work out one of two ways, right? I mean, either the Rose Bowl will just hem and haw and take its ball and go home, or if they want the big bucks, they'll get in line just like everybody else and hold out their hand and say, yeah, we'll take some more of them college football semifinals.
No, I mean, I just let them go if that's what they want. And then now, what would the pairing be at that point? Would they continue to just play with the Big Ten and who?
Yeah, and I mean,
there is no Pac-12.
That's the other crazy part of this is, this particular bowl game in years, like I said, I don't think they were even happy the years that they were deep in the mix with the BCS and deep in the mix with the college football playoff, just from the picking of the team standpoint. And now, you don't even got one of your conferences that kind of goes into this whole tradition here. So you might still get Oregon, you might still get USC or UCLA, but they're going to be a Big Ten representative this year, and you'll have to find somebody else to play them.
Yeah, I don't know what the matchup looks like if they aren't in the semifinal mix, which, I mean, they weren't going to get a semifinal every year anyway. So I guess the other four bowls that didn't get semifinals were quarterfinal hosts, which will be played on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So I guess they would just be in the quarterfinal mix every year.
I mean, maybe that's their calling card or their ticket going forward is, hey,
we'll just be a standing quarterfinal.
Yep, we're the preeminent quarterfinal, and just whoever we get, we get. And they won't be too happy. Yeah, every year until 2002 was Big Ten and Pac-12 until that was Nebraska and Miami that year. So they be interesting to go back and read and definitely sit in on some meetings from back in those days, because that was probably a combo in and of itself. And, I'm thinking Alabama, Texas, one of the great national championship games. They weren't even necessarily happy about featuring the national championship game because it kind of threw off their plans a little bit.
Yeah, because it wasn't on January 1st. Yeah. You can't make everybody happy. So let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports today. When we return, we will be joined by the Titan Insider, Terry McCormick. Get some thoughts from day one of preseason camp. Stay with us when we come back.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. In our final segment of the show, we will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe, as if Canadian soccer wasn't enough for you. We'll give you a whole segment here in about 15 minutes or so. But right now, we're going to visit with the Titan Insider, Terry McCormick of TitanInsider.com. Terry.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing well, doing well.
Long day today, huh?
Yes, early days. Started very early. Practice was at 9:15 and tried to get down there in advance of that and fight a little of that good old Nashville traffic on the way in. So there you have it.
Sounds like fun. When you go out there for the first day of preseason camp, what are you looking for?
I think you just kind of want to make sure that everybody's there and accounted for. And I think that you want to see that, some of what they did through the OTAs, that it kind of translates and it's a smooth transition into the start of training camp, because that things are going to ramp up quite a bit over the next 4 or 5 days, especially the first day or two in pads. So you don't want to see a lot of hiccups if you can help it, and a lot of things, like fumbled snaps or, people jumping off sides, sloppy things like that.
So relative to that, what did you see today?
Well, the only negative I really saw was 3 fumbles by the offense. 2 of them they got back. 1 was lost. In fact, newcomer Jamal Adams was the guy who recovered that fumble in a 7-on-7 drill. But I think that's also kind of a sign, because 2 of them were forced fumbles. The other one was a pitch from Levis to Tony Pollard that was a little bit high and kind of hit off Pollard's right shoulder pad. So, but the other 2 were forced fumbles by the defense. And I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for this defense. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to challenge people. And even if they do give up the completion, there's going to be somebody there trying to rake the ball out. And they did that twice.
I've always been fascinated by that in preseason practice, when the offense does something good at the expense of the defense, or when the defense does something good at the expense of the offense. How do you, as a coach and as a coaching staff, and maybe it's easier for the defensive and the offensive coaching staff, but as a head coach, how do you balance that? I'm always kind of fascinated by that dynamic of preseason practice and preseason work. So
no doubt about it. I'm reminded of our buddy Larry Woody. Remember when he covered Vanderbilt, and he was out there at practice, and somebody said, how did practice look? And he goes, I don't know. I couldn't tell if the offense was terrible or the defense was great.
Right. And yeah, that's, leave it to Larry to put it in perspective, as always. He's been doing it for years. But was there anybody in particular other than Jamal Adams that necessarily jumped out at you, Terry, on day one?
Well, there were several guys that made some plays on the defensive line once they got to 11 on 11 and run plays. And, that was one of the areas that I was a little bit concerned about is this team going to be able to stop the run with, losing Danico Autry, losing Tierre Tart, what are they going to have alongside of Jeffrey Simmons? And take this with a grain of salt because, as you guys know from having covered football, can't really tell until the pads go on what the offensive line is bringing to the table. But the defensive aggressiveness, there were several plays where you saw the defense penetrate the backfield and stop it for either no gain or a loss. I saw Tavondre Sweat in there a time or two, saw Sebastian Joseph Day, saw Keandre Coburn. Several guys get their shots at making plays in the backfield once they went to 11 on 11. But like I said, you have to kind of temper that with a little bit of the fact that the offensive line didn't, nobody's in pads, and that's a great equalizer for those guys.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask Terry is at what point we obviously have discussed so much about bringing in Bill Callahan and his efforts with the offensive line. How soon, once the pads get on, will you maybe to really kind of get a grasp on where they are potentially, even though we're still talking, early in the training camp process? Is that kind of instantaneous, or does that take a couple days even in that process?
Well, I think it'll probably take some time. And here's why I say that, because on the left side, from the center out to left tackle, you pretty much have determined who your guys are. You got Cushenberry in the middle. Skoronski returns to play left guard. You've drafted J.C. Latham to play left tackle. It's a matter now of those guys building chemistry of playing beside each other, knowing the ins and outs of each other's moves. On the right side, even though, they started Sadiq Charles at right guard and John Ojukwu at right tackle, Brian Callahan said it's going to be clearly an open competition with everybody rotating in and out and getting a shot. So first of all, you're going to have to take a good portion of camp and preseason to determine who's manning those spots. Mm-hmm. And then those guys have got to get used to playing with the other three. So it's going to take a little while, I think, for this offensive line to gel.
Other thing I was curious about, were there any notable absences or holdouts or any drama of any sort in terms of who was there or who wasn't?
The only two people that we didn't see that were kind of unaccounted for because, there are two guys, Colton Dowell and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, on the PUP list. But the only two guys that we didn't see out there on the field, one was Harold Landry. The other was Daniel Brunskill. So, and Brian Callahan was not made available to the media today because he spoke yesterday. So no way to find out from the horse's mouth what happened to those guys.
There wasn't any major holdout or drama. Also, I got to ask you, I'm assuming you didn't go, full Les Miles mode and, actually eating the grass, but it feels like when you mentioned the start of training camp, can you not just close your eyes and visualize the sprinklers going, and it just kind of feels like another fresh start, however this season ends up for the Titans?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a fresh start with, a new coaching staff and lots of new players brought in, whether it's Cushenberry or Calvin Ridley or Tony Pollard or L'Jarius Sneed. There's an endless number of guys, being brought in, including Jamal Adams, who arrived just 2 weeks ago. So this is certainly a, get to know you session in terms of this Titans on both sides of the ball.
Terry McCormick, of TitanInsider.com, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Terry, I think your social media platform at TerryMac13, you had something about a certain punter who did not finish the season last year. How is Ryan Stonehouse looking?
He is ahead of schedule. I asked him if he thought he would start camp on the PUP list, and he said that one of his goals, even though it was not very realistic, was to be available to punt on the first day of camp. And he said he made it. And so now his goal is to get himself in conditioning enough to get enough punts in that he's going to be their punter week 1 in Chicago. So certainly a good news if you're the Titans, and because what a weapon this kid is in terms of his ability to boot the football. It's just a matter, I would think, now of starting to get that leg strength back. It was his plant leg that suffered the injury, but certainly, having not punted for a long period of time, it's going to take a little bit of reps to start booming those 65-yarders again.
And I'm not sure, what it says about a team where the punter is as big a concern as Ryan Stonehouse is for those following the Tennessee Titans, I guess. But he certainly, like you said, he certainly is a weapon and does kind of enjoy that status. But, hopefully it's not as important this year.
Maybe not. Maybe they'll actually cross the 30-point threshold for the first time since 2021.
That'd be nice. Hey, speaking of, Terry, Will Levis, first day arriving, as the guy, what did you see out of him, whether in terms of on the field or just carrying himself in body language? Is he, it feels like just from following his social media that he's kind of bought in, obviously, to Nashville and is ready for this role. But I'm curious your thoughts, kind of just maybe even from a body language standpoint.
Thought he had a really good first day. I mean, I wouldn't say superstar yet, but certainly a very solid first day. There was a throw that he made, and I've written about it on TitanInsider.com, that kind of typifies some of the work that he's been putting in this off season. There was an outbreaking route from the middle of the field where Nick Westbrook-Akine is the target. And it's only about an 8 to 10 yard gain, but from where Levis was over to the sideline is probably a 20-yard throw. Well, he layered the ball, put such touch on it that Westbrook-Akine was able to catch it in stride, get 2 feet down, and get out of bounds. And that's a throw that that timing-wise and velocity-wise, that he's really worked hard on in developing that rapport with his receivers this offseason and learning the intricacies of what this system is supposed to do for a quarterback. That's a throw I'm not sure that he would have made in the same way last year. In fact, he admitted that he's made that throw his entire career, but not in that respect, and that's what it's going to take. So I think the way that he, made that throw and the fact that he's putting in the work and just in his media sessions, you can tell. I've been here. I've seen plenty of quarterbacks come and go during my time of covering this franchise. I've seen them draft lots of guys, from Vince Young to Jake Locker to Zach Mettenberger to Marcus Mariota, to Malik Willis. I've seen them draft lots and lots and lots of guys. And I know what a franchise quarterback doesn't look like. And Levis doesn't look like that, if that makes sense. He looks like a guy who has that air and that command that you want a quarterback to have in every aspect, whether he's dealing with teammates, whether he's dealing with coaches, whether he's dealing with the media.
That said, Terry, and you mentioned the name, where does Malik Willis fit with this franchise at this moment? I mean, is it truly an open competition between he and Mason Rudolph for QB2, or are we just kind of biding our time until Malik just winds up as a cut, or how does that play out?
Well, that is a good question, and that's one that's been asked, a couple of times this offseason. And Brian Callahan has answered it in that he sees it as an open competition. And if Malik Willis can show enough to unseat Mason Rudolph and be the number 2 quarterback, then the job would be his. Now, that said, I do kind of think he's in a little bit of an uphill fight because Rudolph does have a few skins on the wall, a few more than Malik does. While he's never been a full-time starter in the NFL, he did start for them down the stretch last season and led them to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Rudolph has the clear advantage in terms of going into this competition. But, if Malik Willis has a strong camp and a strong preseason, there's no reason he can't stick on this 53-man roster once again, even if it's as number 3.
Do you think they keep 3?
I think it's possible. I think if Willis advances enough to show them that they can't risk losing him on waivers if they cut him and try to stash him on the practice squad, then sure, absolutely they'd keep 3.
Yeah, almost like we don't necessarily have a fit for you here, but we certainly don't want you to end up with somebody else.
We don't want to play
how
you.
it sounds like? Yeah.
True. I mean, and the thing of that is, Rudolph is on a 1-year deal. So if you see something still worth developing in Malik Willis, then he's probably going to jump up and be number 2 next year, unless Rudolph decides to resign or they go get somebody else. So, if all goes according to plan, I would think that there's a decent chance that they do keep 3 guys on the 53.
Are there any other quarterbacks in camp, Terry?
No, that's it. Just those 3 guys.
Okay. All right. I hesitate on these airwaves to give any credibility to this. Will you be rooting for Derrick Henry in Baltimore?
Well, I kind of think of myself as a journalist and, not rooting. My rooting interest lies with the Yankees and baseball. Baseball. But
okay, let me put it differently for you then. Will you be wishing for good things for a former Titan who has moved on?
I don't mind if Derrick Henry has, if he runs for 1,500 yards, good for him. He's a class act. He's a good, a good guy, a stand-up guy who, put in his time here, and someday he'll be in the team's ring of honor and perhaps even in Canton, Ohio, in the Hall of Fame. That said, if I were rooting as a fan, I would want Derrick to put up nice numbers, but I certainly, if I'm a Titans fan, I would never root for the Baltimore Ravens to win anything. I mean, that from a fan's perspective, that would be what I would say. It's like, if Aaron Judge was traded to the Red Sox, I would say, great guy, loved him here, but I certainly wouldn't make me want Boston to win a pennant.
That's fair.
Yeah, and if Derrick Henry somehow, ends up in a playoff game versus the Titans, you don't wish injury on him, but if he stubbed his toe and had to miss the rest of the game, you're okay with that too, because it means the Titans probably end up winning the game, is the way I'm thinking about that.
Well, I mean, in any sport, you have to put your team ahead of, you have to put your team ahead of your guy. That's one of the things that, to my way of thinking that, and I'm being the old guy here, Wade, you're going to have to forgive me. And I bet Mo's got my back on this though. When we grew up, you picked a team, you stuck with that team through thick and thin, no matter what they did. If they were good, if they were bad, Mo being an Atlanta Braves fan has saw a lot of lean years in the 70s and 80s. Now, he probably was a big fan, being a Braves fan of that era. He was probably a big fan of Dale Murphy. But the last thing he would want to see would be Dale Murphy in a Phillies uniform hitting a game-winning homer against the Braves.
There we go. Yep, absolutely. I just kind of wanted to get some clarity on that because I know it's been talked about elsewhere. And Just wanted to get your thought on that. Terry, we saw an article earlier today. The NFL, as a new stadium for the Titans is being erected and will be opening for what? 26? Is that when it comes
27.
online? 27. We've got a new stadium that will open in 4 years, but the NFL is going to force the Titans to put some money into Nissan Stadium, which means that the NFL is going to force the city of Nashville to put some money into Nissan Stadium, and it's being received as you would expect.
Yeah, the way I look at that is like, yeah, I've got my eyes on getting a brand new car, but while I'm driving this old clunker, I've still got to, keep it running. I got
to keep it running.
If I have to buy a new radiator, I have to buy a new radiator.
I got to keep it running until I can get that new car. Apparently, there's about $80,000 worth of investments that need to be made. That's a lot of
radiators.
That is a bunch of radiators, but it's a pretty expensive car as a whole. But they're going to have to spend that money here in about the next 2-3 weeks, I guess, prior to the first preseason game, and most of it is either fan or player safety related. But I guess the NFL does inspections.
Yeah, that's it. Now, the question that I have is, and I haven't looked at this in a while, is this the Titans spending this $80,000, or is it the city spending this $80,000?
And that was kind of my question as well. Now, I guess I don't know. I mean, as the tenants, would the Titans have to spend that money, or as the landlord, would the city have to spend that money? And I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I'm
But
not.
the assumption is being made that it's the city that is on the hook for these improvements, which has created the reaction that.
But I do know that the Titans, as the tenant, at least in the past, they are responsible for certain upkeep and certain maintenance in the stadium. I guess it's a matter of, does this fall under that?
Mm-hmm.
So we shall see.
Absolutely, we shall. Terry McCormick, you can find his work at TitanInsider.com. You can find him on social media at TerryMac13. Terry, we appreciate you checking in with us. I know you had an early morning. Catch you a nap, and we'll catch up.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All
Terry.
right. When we come back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe when we return to the Lee Company studio after this.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And it is time for us to give you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. We will start in the Windy City. Oscar Mayer Wienermobile flips onto its side after crash along suburban Chicago highway.
Oof.
That's a little, I would imagine that'd be a little jarring to run up on the Wienermobile keeled over on its side, following a crash along Interstate 294 on Monday. Hit a car. The driver lost control and overcorrected and rolled the Wienermobile. No injuries, but one lane of the northbound Chicago suburban interstate was closed for over an hour. Spokesperson for Oscar Mayer said they were grateful that everybody involved is safe and there were no injuries. You will see in late winter, early spring, the advertisements on social media platforms where Oscar Mayer is looking for drivers for their Wienermobiles. They have a bunch of those, and they're usually just out of college kids or college kids, that kind of thing. So may not be the most experienced drivers, but you hate to see it. You're glad nobody was hurt, like they said, but it certainly had to be a little bit of a jarring visual to come up on that if you're driving.
Yeah. Imagine you're driving and you're like, we've been stuck in this traffic for an hour, and then it's a dropped wiener is kind of to blame at the end. And I mean, I was thinking, we've all done it, right? I mean, the 5-second rule. I wonder if that applies in this situation here. Like, do you just tip it back over and keep on going, or Terry was just talking about radiators. Like, how does that work? Because the Wienermobile must be protected at all costs if possible.
At a hot dog down, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Wienermobile didn't have quite the same luck in Chicago that a Virginia woman, specifically LaToya Burke of Chesapeake, Virginia, had here recently. Ms. Burke purchased 6 Pick 5 lottery tickets using the numbers 55550 and cashed all 6 of them for $30,000 a piece.
Ooh.
6 tickets, $180,000. I checked the numbers and I was happy, Ms. Burke said. That would, I dare say that would describe most of our reactions to that. I'm not sure how much a Pick 5 ticket costs. I guess they're $1. So that's a nice little return on your investment right there, I would think.
Absolutely. And this is there's a couple strategies to this thing, and it paid off in a big way because I kind of like to when the lottery gets big enough, I'll ease in there and play a couple picks, but I kind of just do them at random. I kind of diversify my portfolio.
Right. I don't think I'd go all or nothing on one number like that,
but
or
yeah,
one set of numbers. But again, I'm not arguing with Ms. Burke. She figures something out.
And the beauty of this too is the numbers you rattled off 55550. I've also been guilty of this. You don't know what numbers you've got, so you got to scramble online and you're trying to look around and see when them bad boys roll out. Exactly whose numbers they are. They're my numbers, and 6 times the richer, my friend. Woo.
Hey, again, I'm not mad at her. She figured something out. New Hampshire. Specifically the coast of New Hampshire, which is pretty slim actually when you look on a map. The coast of New Hampshire isn't much. We talked about that a few weeks ago when we had Heather on going into the race up there, because the winner of that race gets a live lobster.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody didn't want any part of it. Well, if he didn't want any part of that lobster, he certainly wouldn't want any part of a whale. 2 fishermen are safe after a whale crashed onto their boat, capsizing it off the coast of New Hampshire, according to the U.S. Coast Guard. It's occurred earlier this week. They were thrown overboard, said they had seen the whale earlier and were trying to keep their distance. As you can see here.
Oh my goodness.
They were not successful.
Ooh, that is terrifying.
He went under, he disappeared for a few minutes, and then the next thing we know, he just popped right up on our transom. Fisherman Ryland Kenny told a local television station. Yeah. A whale with bad intentions.
Yeah, that didn't look like the whale crashed into their boat so much as that whale said, you know what, stay the hell away from me, and let me show you what I can do if you try and press your issue.
I'm going to wreak a little havoc right here just because I can.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah, that's whales are freaky, man. I don't like messing with them.
No, not at all. A Good Samaritan recovered both individuals from the water. No injuries were reported. Man, that's got to be scary, though. The vessel has also been salvaged, so that's a good thing.
Now, I find that is the craziest thing at all, because when you watch that video, looks like that boat's a goner. Yeah, just
no
go
doubt.
ahead and mentally you're chalking that one up. You're just lucky to be alive at that point. We'll worry about the boat later.
Also, when you watch that video, this next sentence kind of you kind of tilt your head, kind of, that dumb dog look. The whale probably did not know the boat was there, said Sarah Morris of the University of New Hampshire Shoals Marine Laboratory. If you look at the video really carefully, you can see that the whale has its mouth open. It looks like it's lunge feeding and actually trying to catch fish. I don't know. That whale like I said, that whale looked like to me it was trying to create some havoc.
And see, so that's what's messed up, Mo, right? Is these whales, they get off because everybody talks about the sharks, and more on them later, but everybody talks about the sharks and they get the bad rep. But whales are mean too, man.
Right.
And so, they're just like, oh, I just accidentally happened to bump into this boat. I was just trying to get some fish. I don't know if I'm buying that.
That whale looked like to me it had some ill intentions. And again, you go back to the guy on the boat, said, we tried to stay away from him. We saw him go under, and then all of a sudden he's right there on our back door. It's like, yeah, that whale wanted to mess with somebody. I'm pretty convinced. I don't care what your shark expert says.
23 foot. I mean, that's like 3 Wimbies all put together, just coming at you right there. Just trying to, yeah. And if he just conveniently, he may have been looking for fish, but if he had just got a little nibble of some flesh too, he probably wasn't going to be too upset. I bet
he wouldn't have been disappointed. No,
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, Sarah. It's nothing personal. I just think you're a little off base on this one. Probably did not know the boat was there. No, not buying that. Wade, you did mention sharks. We did mention that we've not talked about Florida on this segment in a while. Sharks off Brazil coast test positive for cocaine. The drug was found in all 13 wild Brazilian sharp-nosed sharks tested, with a concentration as much as 100 times higher than previously reported for other aquatic creatures. Apparently, drugs getting dumped by smugglers along the in the Atlantic off the coasts of South Central America and Florida. Researchers have thought that sea life could be impacted by such, and it would seem that researchers were right. A study from the Oswaldo Cruz Foundation in Brazil has found that sharks are being affected by drugs in the ocean.
Man, I got a couple things on this, because number one, and they're both kind of movie related, but I mean, how has this not been the plot of a movie already? I mean, we've seen crazy movies and shows where they're smuggling drugs in a variety of different items, objects, and things. Inserting into a shark seems a little crazy. And then we just talked about how mean and how nasty those bad boys can be. I mean, they're the king of the ocean. I'm thinking Cocaine Bear, but now it's Cocaine Shark. So I feel like we could be onto a sequel here. That one's free. I probably just cost us a lot of money by just giving away the screenplay right there.
You may very well have, but I mean, I'm just imagining sharks are dangerous enough as they are, and
that's
then
what I'm saying.
You get them intoxicated, or
they don't sleep anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100 times higher than previously reported. I mean, this has the movie screenplay written all over. I mean, just imagine what's worse than a school or a vessel of sharks. Oh yeah, let's just give 20 of them cocaine and just have them just wreaking havoc.
That that can't go well.
I don't like that.
Cannot possibly go well. The Olympics are coming up. We did see the German national team fall to Team USA in women's play yesterday. But Nyara Sabali is quite proud of her position on the German team that will be going to the Olympics. I think this is this Germany's first Olympics berth as a women's basketball team? Yes. After defeating Brazil at the FIBA women's game tournament back in February, they clinched that spot first time. And so Nyara Sabali of the New York Liberty made sure to let everybody know she's going to the Olympics, and all you have to do is see her smile. She has a grill.
Oh yeah.
Depicting the Olympic rings. It's 14 karat gold.
Ooh.
Olympic grills. That's, man.
Paul Wall, where you at?
Yeah. I don't really have words to describe that, but it's impressive for sure. I have no idea what something like that would cost because I just don't shop in those circles, I guess. But,
yeah, I ain't got that kind of cash, so that's not a realm I'm really familiar with.
I don't have it. I'm not going to have it, and if I did, I wouldn't be spending it on grills. But yeah, that's tiny colored gemstones set into a 14 karat gold frame. Clip-in grill produced by Fine Ass Fronts of New York.
Expert branding.
Good for them. They're probably going to make some money off of that. Apparently, she's not the first Olympic athlete to display their status with a grill. Ryan Locke back in 2012, the U.S. swimmer, had a Stars and Striped grill, which was made by Paul Wall.
Yep.
And hip hop jeweler Johnny Dang, according to this
that's
article.
the guy. That's the godfather of the grills, Mr. Johnny Dang.
Johnny
say.
Dang.
I do know that much a little bit. Being a Houston Astros fan, them two are thick as thieves there.
At the time, the grill caused a flurry of controversy, with some critics calling it inappropriate for collecting a medal on the winner's podium. I think if you're collecting a medal on the winner's podium, you can do whatever you want to, personally. So
Yep.
I'm not mad at Ryan Locke. Certainly not at Paul Wall or Johnny Dang. Simone Biles and her husband wore matching diamond grills for their wedding celebrations last year down in Mexico. And so, I hadn't heard a whole lot about grills here of late. I guess I thought maybe they were kind of phasing out, but Nyara says, nay. The grills are still in style.
On the come up. And so, I'm immediately wondering, surely she doesn't wear a mouthpiece, because if so, that's the biggest waste, unfortunately. Hopefully she's not. I want her safety to be okay, but you can't wear a mouthpiece and still rock the grill. You got to flash that bad boy at all times.
Well, I wonder, you don't wear that during a game, though, do you?
I mean, why not? If you're going to go that far, I might as well let it ride, baby.
Well, that's a good point. That is a good point. That is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are done for the day. So be sure and check back with us tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here, same bat time, same bat channel. We will be bringing you more sports. Enjoy your Wednesday night.